everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I want to apologise first for not putting out a video last week and the week before. I wanted to turn my Princess and the Goblin series into a Sunday series, but then I got ill, I got the flu, and that really affected my voice. So I just had to lay in my bed, and I had a really bad cold, and therefore I thought it would be better not to record a video. But I am mostly back to normal, so I'm back with a new Princess and the Goblin reading for you. And today we're going to be reading from chapter 5. Chapter 5. The Princess Lets Well Alone. When she woke the next morning, the first thing she heard was the rain still falling. Indeed, this day was so like the last that it would have been difficult to tell what was the use of it. The first thing she thought of, however, was not the rain, but the lady in the tower, and the first question that occupied her thoughts was whether she should ask the nurse to fulfill her promise this very morning, and to go with her to find her grandmother as soon as she had had her breakfast. But she came to the conclusion that perhaps the lady would not be pleased if she took everyone to see her without first asking leave, especially as it was very evident, seeing she lived on pigeons' eggs and cooked them herself, that she did not want the household to know she was there. So the princess resolved to take the first opportunity of running up alone and asking whether she might bring her nurse. She believed the fact that she could not otherwise convince her she was telling the truth would have much weight with her grandmother. The princess and her nurse were the best of friends all dressing time, and the princess in consequence ate an enormous little breakfast. "I wonder, Lootie," that was her pet name for her nurse, "what pigeons' eggs taste like," she said. She was eating her egg, not quite a common one, for they always picked out the pinky ones for her. "Well, get you a pigeon's eggs, and I shall judge for yourself." "We'll get you a pigeon's egg, and you shall judge for yourself," said the nurse. "Oh, no, no," returned Irene, suddenly reflecting that they might disturb the old lady in getting in, and that even if they did not, she would have one less in consequence. "What a strange creature you are," said the nurse. "First to want a thing and then to refuse it." But she did not say it crossly, and the princess never minded any remarks that were not unfriendly. "Well, you see, Lootie, there are reasons," she returned, and said no more, for she did not want to bring up the subject of her former strife, as her nurse should offer to go before she had her grandmother's permission to bring her. Of course she would refuse to take her, but then she would believe her less than ever. Now the nurse, as she said herself afterwards, could not be every moment in the room, and as never before yesterday had the princess given her smallest reason for anxiety. It had not come into her head to watch her more closely. So she soon gave her a chance, and the very first thing that offered, Irene was off up the stairs again. This day's adventure, however, did not turn out like yesterday's, although it began like it, and indeed today is very seldom like yesterday. People would note the differences, even when it rains. The princess ran through passage after passage, and could not find the stair of the tower. My own suspicion is that she had not gone up high enough, and was searching on the second instead of the third floor. When she got turned to go back, she failed equally in her search after the stair. She was lost once more. Something made it even worse to bear this time, and it was no wonder that she cried again. Suddenly it occurred to her that it was after having cried before that she had found her grandmother's stair. She got up at once, wiped her eyes, and started upon a fresh quest. This time, although she did not find what she hoped, she found what was next best. She did not come on a stair that went up, but she came upon the one that went down. It was evidently not the stair she had come up, yet it was a good deal better than none. So down she went, and was singing merrily before she reached the bottom. There, to her surprise, she found herself in the kitchen. Although she was not allowed to go there alone, her nurse had often taken her, and she was a great favourite with the servants. So there was a general rush at the moment she appeared, for everyone to have her, and the report of where she was soon reached to the nurse's ears. She came at once to fetch her, but she never suspected how she had gotten there, and the princess kept her own counsel. Her failure to find the old lady not only disappointed her, but made her very thoughtful. Sometimes she came almost to the nurse's opinion that she had dreamed all about her, but that fancy never lasted very long. She wondered much whether she should ever see her again, and thought it very sad not to have been able to find her when she particularly wanted her. She resolved to say nothing more to her nurse on the subject, seeing it was so little in her power to prove her words. Chapter 6. The Little Miner. The next day, the grey cloud still hung over the mountain, and the rain poured like water from a full sponge. The princess was very fond of being outdoors, and she nearly cried when she saw that the weather was no better. The mist was not of such a dark, dingy grey. There was light in it, and as the hours went on it grew brighter and brighter, until it was almost too brilliant to look at. And late in the afternoon the sun broke out, so gloriously that Irene clapped her hands, crying, "See, see, Ludi, the sun has had his face washed. Look how bright it is. Do get my hat and let us go out for a walk. Oh dear, how happy am I." Ludi was very glad to please the princess. She got her hat and cloak, and they set out together for a walk up the mountain, for the road was so hard and steep that the water could not rest upon it, and it was always dry enough for walking a few minutes after the rain ceased. The clouds were rolling away in broken pieces, like great overwoolly sheep, whose wool the sun has bleached till it was almost too white for the eyes to bear. Between them the sky shone with a deeper and purer blue because of the rain. The trees on the roadside were hung all over with drops, which sparkled in the sun like jewels. The only things that were no brighter for the rain were the brooks that ran down the mountain. They had changed from the clearness of crystal to muddy brown, but what they lost in colour they gained in sound, or at least in noise, for a brook, when it is swollen, is not so musical as before. But Irene was in raptures with the great brown stream stumbling down everywhere, and Ludi shared in her delight, for she too had been confined to the house for 3 days. At length she observed that the sun was getting low, and said it was time to be going back. She made the remark again and again, and every time the princess begged her to go on, just a little further and little further, reminding her that it was much easier to go downhill, and saying that when they did turn they would be home in a moment. So on and on they did go, now to look at a group of ferns over whose tops a stream was pouring in a watery arch, now to pick a shining stone from a rock by the wayside, now to watch a flight of some birds. Suddenly the shadow of a great mountain peak came up from behind, and shot in front of them. When the nurse saw it, she started, and shook, catching hold of the princess's hand, turned and began to run down the hill. "What's all the haste, nursie?" said Irene, running alongside of her. "We must not be out a moment longer." "But we can't help being out a good many moments longer." It was too true. The nurse almost cried. They were much too far from home. It was against orders to be out with the princess one moment after the sun was down, and they were nearly a mile up the mountain. If His Majesty, Irene's papa, were to hear of it, Ludi would certainly be dismissed. To leave the princess would break her heart. It was no wonder she ran, but Irene was not in the least frightened, not knowing anything to be frightened at. She kept on chatting as well as she could, but it was not easy. Ludi, why do you run so fast?" "It shakes my teeth when I talk." "Then don't talk," said Ludi. But the princess went on talking. She was always saying, "Look, look, Ludi," but Ludi paid no more heed to anything she said, only ran on. "Look, look, Ludi, don't you see that funny man peeping over the rock?" Ludi only ran the faster. She had to pass the rock, and when they came nearer, the princess saw it was only a lump of the rock itself that she had taken for a man. "Look, look, Ludi, there's such a curious creature at the foot of that old tree. Look at it, Ludi. It's making faces at us, I do think." Ludi gave a stifled cry and ran faster still, so fast that Irene's little legs could not keep up with her, and she fell with a crash. It was a hard downhill road, and she'd been running very fast, so it was no wonder she began to cry. This put the nurse nearly beside herself, but all she could do was to run on the moment she got the princess on her feet again. "Who's that laughing at me?" said the princess, trying to keep in her sobs and running too fast for her grey sneeze. "Nobody, child," said the nurse, almost angrily. But that instant there came a burst of coarse tittering from somewhere near, and a hoarse, indistinct voice that seemed to say, "Lies, lies, lies." "Oh," cried the nurse with a sigh that was almost a scream, and ran on faster than ever. "Nursey, Ludi, I can't run any more. Do let us walk a bit." "What am I to do?" said the nurse. "Here, I will carry you." She caught her up, but found her much too heavy to run with. She had to set her down again. Then she looked wildly about her, gave a great cry, and said, "We've taken the wrong turning somewhere, and I don't know where we are. We are lost, lost." The terror she was in had quite bewildered her. It was true enough. They had lost their way. They had been running down into a little valley in which there was no house to be seen. Now Irene did not know what good reason there was for her nurse's terror, for the servants had all strict orders never to mention the goblins to her. But it was very discomposing to see her nurse in such a fright. Before, however, she had time to grow dreadfully alarmed like that, she heard the sound of whistling, and that revived her. Presently she saw a boy coming up the road from the valley to meet them. He was a whistler, but before they met his whistling changed to singing. And this is something like what he sang. "Ring, dot, bang, the hammers go, the hammers clang, hit and turn and bore, whiz and puff and roar. Thus we rive the rocks, force the goblin locks, see the shining ore. 1, 2, 3, bright as gold can be. 4, 5, 6, shovels, mattocks, picks. 7, 8, 9, light your lamp at mine. 10, 11, 12, loosely hold the helve. Where the merry miner boys make the goblins hold their noise." "I wish you would hold your noise," said the nurse rudely, for the very word goblin at such a time and in such a place made her tremble. It would bring the goblins upon them to a certainty, she thought, to defy them in that way. But whether the boy had heard her or not, he did not stop his singing. 13, 14, 15, this is worth the sifting. 16, 17, 18, there's the match I laid him. 19, 20, goblins in plenty. "To be quiet," said the nurse, in a whispered shriek, but the boy, who was now close at hand, still went on. "Hush, scush, scurry. There you go in a hurry. Gobble, gobble, goblin. There you go a wobblin. Hobble, hobble, hobblin. Cobble, gobble, cobblin. Hobble, goblin. Huh! There," said the boy, as he stood still opposed them. "There, that will do for them. They can bear singing, and they can stand that song. They can't sing themselves, for they have no more voice than a crow, and they don't like other people to sing." The boy was dressed in a miner's dress, with a curious cap on his head. He was a very nice-looking boy, with eyes as dark as the mines in which he worked, and as sparkling as the crystals in the rock. He was about 12 years old. His face was almost too pale for beauty, which came his being so little in the open air and the sunlight, for even vegetables grow in the dark, for even vegetables grown in the dark are white. But he looked happy, merry indeed, perhaps at the thought of having routed the goblins, and his bearing as he stood before them had nothing clownish or rude about it. I saw them, he went on, as I came up, and I'm very glad I did. I knew they were after somebody, but I couldn't see who it was. They won't touch you as long as I'm here. They won't touch you as long as I'm here with you. Who? Why? Who are you? Asked the nurse, offended at the freedom with which she spoke to them. I'm Peter's son. Who's Peter? Peter the miner. I don't know him. I'm his son, though. And why should the goblins mind you, pray? Because I don't mind them. I'm used to them. What difference does that make? If you're not afraid of them, they're afraid of you. I'm not afraid of them, that's all. But it's all that's wanted. Up here, that is. It's a different thing down there. They won't always mind that song even down there. And if anyone sings it, they stand grinning at them awfully. If he gets frightened and misses a word or says a wrong one, don't they give it him? What did it do to him? Asked Irene with a trembling voice. Don't go frightening the princess, said the nurse. The princess, repeated the little miner, taking off his curious cap. I beg your pardon, but you oughtn't be out so late. Everybody knows that's against the law. Yes, it is indeed, said the nurse, beginning to cry again, and I shall have to suffer for it. What does that matter, said the boy. It must be your fault. It's the princess who will suffer for it. I hope they didn't hear you call her the princess. If they did, they're sure to know her again. They're awfully sharp. Looty, Looty, cried the princess, take me home. Don't go on like that, said the nurse to the boy, almost fiercely. How could I help it? I lost my way. You shouldn't have been out so late. You wouldn't have lost your way if you hadn't been frightened, said the boy. Come along, I'll soon set you right again. Shall I carry your little highness? Impertinence, murmured the nurse, but she did not say it aloud, for she thought if she made him angry he might take his revenge by telling someone belonging to the house, and then it would be sure to come to the king's ears. No, thank you, said Irene. I can walk very well, though I can't run so fast as Nursey. If you will give me one hand, Looty, Looty will give me another, and then I shall get on famously. They soon had set. If you give me one hand, Looty. If you give me one hand, Looty will give me another, and I shall get on famously. They soon had set her between them, holding a hand of each. Now let's run, said the nurse. No, no, said the little miner. That's the worst thing you can do. If you hadn't run before, you wouldn't have lost your way. And if you run now, they will be after you in a moment. I don't want to run, said Irene. You don't think of me, said the nurse. Yes, I do, Looty. The boy says they won't touch us if we don't run. Yes, but if they know at the house I've kept you out so late, I should be turned away. That would break my heart. Turned away, Looty? Who would turn you away? Your papa did, child. But I'll tell him it was all my fault. You know it was, Looty. He won't mind that. I'm sure he won't. Then I'll cry and go down on my knees to him and beg him not to take away my own dear Looty. The nurse was comforted at hearing this and said no more. They went on, walking pretty fast, but taking care not to run a step. I want to talk to you, said Irene to the little miner, but it's so awkward. I don't know your name. My name's Curdie, little princess. What a funny name, Curdie. What's more, Curdie Peterson. What's your name, please? Irene. What more? I don't know. What more? What more's my name, Looty? Princesses haven't got more than one name. They don't want it. Oh then, Curdie, you must call me just Irene, and no more. No, indeed, said the nurse indignantly. You shall do no such thing. What shall he call me then, Lootie? Your Royal Highness. My Royal Highness? What's that? No, no, Lootie. I won't be called names. I don't like them. You just told me once yourself that it's only rude children that call names, and I'm sure Gertie won't be rude. Gertie, my name's Irene. Well, Irene, said Gertie, with a glance at the nurse, which showed he enjoyed teasing her. It is very kind of you to let me call you anything. I like your name very much. He expected the nurse to interfere again, but he soon saw that she was too frightened to speak. She was staring at something a few yards before them in the middle of the path, where now it narrowed between rocks, so that only one could pass at a time. It is very much kinder of you to go out of your way to take us home, said Irene. I'm not going out of my way yet, said Gertie. It's on the other side of those rocks. The path turns out to my father's. You wouldn't think of leaving us till we're safe home, I'm sure, gasped the nurse. Of course not, said Gertie. You dear, good, kind Gertie. I'll give you a kiss when we get home, said the princess. The nurse gave her a great pull by the hand she held. But at that instant, something in the middle of the way, which had looked like a great lump of earth, brought down by the rain, began to move. One after another it shot out, 4 long things, like 2 arms and 2 legs, but it was now too dark to tell what they were. The nurse began to tremble from head to toe. Irene clasped Gertie's hand yet faster, and Gertie began to sing again. 1, 2, hidden who, 3, 4, blessed and bold, 5, 6, there's a fix, 7, 8, hold it straight, 9, 10, hit again, hurry, scurry, brother, smother, there's a toad in the road, smash it, quash it, fry it, dry it, you're another up and off, there's enough, ooh. As he uttered the last words, Gertie let go his hold of his companion and rushed at the thing in the road as if he would trample it under his feet. He gave a great spring and ran straight up one of the rocks like a huge spider. Gertie turned back laughing and took Irene's hand again. She gasped his very tight, but said nothing till they had passed the rocks. A few yards more and she found herself on a part of the road she knew. She was able to speak again. You know, Gertie, I don't quite like your song. It sounds to me rather rude, she said. Well, perhaps it is, answered Gertie. I never thought of that. It's a way we have. We do it because they don't like it. Who don't like it? The cops, as we call them. Don't, said the nurse. Why not, said Gertie. I beg you won't. Please don't. Oh, if you ask me that way, of course I won't. Though I don't a bit know why. Look, there are the lights of the great house down below. We'll be home in 5 minutes now. Nothing more happened. They reached home in safety. Nobody had missed them, or had even known they were gone out. They arrived at the door belonging to their part of the house without anyone seeing them. The nurse was rushing in with a hurried and not over-gracious good night to Gertie, but the princess pulled her hand from hers, and she was throwing her arms around Gertie's neck, and when she caught her again and dragged her away. Lootie, Lootie, I promised a kiss, said Irene. The princess mustn't give kisses. It's not at all proper, said Lootie. But I promised, said the princess. There is no occasion. He's only a minor boy. He's such a good boy and a brave boy, and he's been very kind to us. Lootie, Lootie, I promised. Then you shouldn't have promised. Lootie, I promised him a kiss. Your Royal Highness, said Lootie, suddenly grown very respectful, must come in directly. Nurse, a princess must not break her word, said Irene, drawing herself up and standing stock still. Lootie did not know which the king might count the worse, to let the princess be out after sunset or to let her kiss a minor boy. She did not know that, being a gentleman, as many kings have been, he would have counted neither of them the worse. However much he might have disliked his daughter to kiss the minor boy, he would have not had her break her word for all the goblins in creation. But, as I say, the nurse was not lady enough to understand this, and so she was in great difficulty, for, if she insisted, Someone might hear the princess cry and run to see, and then all would come out. But here Curdie came again to the rescue. "Never mind, Princess Irene," he said. "You mustn't kiss me tonight. But you shan't break your word. I will come another time. You may be sure I will." "Oh, thank you, Curdie," said the princess, and stopped crying. "Good night, Irene. Good night, Lootie," said Curdie. And she turned and was out of sight in a moment. "I should like to see him," muttered the nurse as she carried the princess to the nursery. "You will see him," said Irene. "You may sure Curdie will keep his word. He's sure to come again." "I should like to see him," repeated the nurse, and said no more. She did not want to open a new course of strife with the princess by saying more plainly what she meant. Glad enough that she had succeeded both in getting home unseen and in keeping the princess from kissing the miner's boy, she resolved to watch her far better in the future. Her carelessness had already doubled the danger she was in. Formerly the goblins were her only fear. Now she had to protect her charge from Curdie as well. That was chapter 5 and 6 from The Princess and the Goblin. Thank you so much for listening and watching this video. I hope that you've all really enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all again in a next video. If you're not subscribed to my channel yet, please consider subscribing and give this video a like if you liked it.